Hey everybody, it's Candy, aka Brown Eyed Girl 69. How y'all doing? Well, it's a little cooler here now than it has been. I was in shorts, but the house is pretty cool. Naturally, I don't have the AC on and I don't have the heater on. Naturally, right now in my house, it's reading 68 degrees, so it's a little chilly. But I don't really want to turn the heater on yet either. Anyways, I made a video last night, but I already deleted it because I was all over the place. And I don't like being all over the place. But by me making that video and going through it and seeing the key points that I touched on through the video before I went off on a tangent about a completely different subject matter, I wrote some information down and decided to do some research. Okay, so one of the points that I made last night in my video was that if Trump got in, and now we know he's in, so he was the 45th president, 4 and 5 equals 9. He's also the 47th president, well, 4 and 7 equals 11, so that's 9/11. So I call these flags, just information. From what I can see, Kamala won 17 states and Trump won 33. The voting's decided on the Electoral College. And what I mean by Electoral College is each state is given a certain amount of votes, electoral votes, based off of demographics. Each state's given 2 votes per representative or something of that nature. Anyway, I wrote some of the things down, some of the states, just pulled states out just so y'all could kind of see what I'm talking about. Like California, it voted blue, simply because California is more of a Democratic state. And they have a total of 54 electoral votes because of the size of the state and the number of representation that's needed to operate that state on a state level, state and federal level. Whereas like the state of Oklahoma that I live in, we only have 7 electoral votes, and my state voted red. Demographically also, that usually has something to do with it as well. Some states are more conservative and some states are more liberal. And you can see by the map that I'm going to put on here, and I think I might have already added it on my community tab. If I haven't, I will, to show you the demographics as far as like the states that voted blue and the states that voted red. Texas has 40 electoral votes, which they're Republican, red. North Dakota got 3, red. Florida, 30, red. Colorado, 10, blue. So then they basically add up all those electoral vote numbers, and the first one to get to 270 wins. Let me see. Let me do some calculation here. 270. Let's see. He had 277. And she had like 224, I think. So that's 11, 9, that's 1, that's 4, that's 5. Okay. So I think the total of electoral votes is like 501. And the first person to get to 270 wins. Trump had 277, Kamala had 224. And that's how the president is selected. Not really elected. It does all have to do with voter turnout. But at the same time, the system that they're utilizing is a selection. It's not a overall one-for-one vote. You know, the way we used to do it in school when we wanted to run for student council. They counted the votes, you know. They counted vote for vote. This person got this vote. This person got that vote. Put them in a pile and they count them all up. And whoever had the highest number of votes is the one that won. That's how it's supposed to be. But that's not how they do it. It would take too long to determine vote for vote. But people are given that illusion unless they really do some research. And I'd always heard about the Electoral College, but I wasn't really for sure how it worked, but that's how it works. Also, I decided to do some research because I'd heard through the grapevine that ever since Kennedy, it's always been Democrat, Republican, Democrat, Republican. But you do have 2 terms, or if some situations happen. So I'm just going to basically go back to Kennedy. He was a Democrat. He was assassinated, and then his vice president, Lyndon B. Johnson, took over. And he was a Democrat as well. Same party, you know. After LBJ, they gave us a Republican named Nixon. Well, Nixon resigned because of a scandal, the Watergate scandal going on. So his predecessor, Vice President Ford, took over. Well, Ford ran up against Carter, and Nixon and Ford were Republicans. Ford ran up against Carter, and Carter was a Democrat, and he got in. And then Carter ran up against Reagan, and Reagan was a Republican. And Reagan got in and served 2 terms. Basically, he served the whole 80s decade. And then at the end of the 80s decade, into the 90s decade, you had his vice president, senior George Bush, Republican, and then after, and he only ran 1 term. Then in November of 92, Clinton was elected. And he was a Democrat. And he served 2 terms. And after him, we had Bush Sr.'s son, Bush Jr., and he was Republican. He served 2 terms. And then after him, we got Obama, who served 2 terms, and he was Democrat. Then you got Trump, who was Republican, then Biden, Democrat, and now we got Republican again. It's a cycle. Sometimes those sides, Democrat or Republican, will control a whole decade. Like in the 80s, the whole decade of the 80s was controlled by the Republicans. The whole decades of the 90s was basically controlled by the Democrats. And then we bounced back to Republican for 2 terms in the early 2000s until 2008, when Democrats took back over, and then it's just been 1 term, you know, not double termed. So, yeah, it's kind of interesting when you research this stuff, you know. But I already knew that Trump was going to be the winner simply because every president has to go over to Israel and do what they call, I can't remember what they call it. I think I called it daubing, but that's not the correct term. But there's this like movement that they do towards the Wailing Wall. And they take these pieces of paper and stick these pieces of paper, which are their like hopes and prayers and things of that nature, into the little cracks of the wall, the Wailing Wall. And then it's pretty egotistically based. The Wailing Wall they'll try to convince people that the Wailing Wall is still a standing part of the physical temple. of Jesus' days, but that's a complete and utter lie. The physical temple was completely 100% destroyed in 70 AD. Nothing left standing of it. It was completely rubble. Stones. No stone left unturned. It was completely destroyed. Turned to dust, basically. What they're calling the Wailing Wall was part of a fort that the Romans had built during the siege of Jerusalem in 66 AD. That's what's left of that. Wailing Wall is a portion of the fort that the Romans built. So, if you really want to dive into the symbology, meaning of some of these things that are happening, yeah, you'll see how indoctrinated you are. Even if you consider yourself awake, you'll truly understand how deep it goes. It's amazing, really, honestly. These types of things is what I give my energy and attention to most of the time. But yeah, most people are just stuck in their belief systems due to what they call premeditated ignorance. I made a post about that as well on my community tab. That was pretty much all the information I had on it, on the election information. I see a lot of people out there in social media land, whether that's Facebook or YouTube, or I hear Twitter's a pretty decent place to go and air one's wishes and stuff, or thoughts, but I didn't really like Twitter when it first came out all those years ago, so I don't think I'll utilize it. But I do have the app just in case I need to view anything that was posted on that particular platform. And I don't really utilize Instagram because Instagram, to me, since the way they do it is based off of photos, videos, reels, things of that nature, it's all visual based. It's all vanity, in my opinion. You don't really get any true knowledge from there. But again, I guess it just depends on who you follow. Me, personally, I never got anything out of Instagram, even though I do have an Instagram account. What was I going to say? What was I talking about? These social media platforms. Oh. Whereas, today's the day after the election, so of course everybody's going to be talking about it. Everybody's already going to probably be coming up with memes. I don't know. I got on Facebook a little bit this morning when I first got up, but I didn't see anything of any significance, I probably seen a couple posts, but it's just like, yeah, I already knew before I went to sleep last night that Trump had it in the bag, I already knew that Trump was going to get in. I think I kind of veered off of this for a minute. The reason why I know Trump's going to get in is because every president has to go over to the Wailing Wall and do this specific daubing action. That's right, I did talk about it. And I don't think Kamala Harris ever did it. Her husband did, but she didn't ever do it. I was kind of doing some research on that subject too. But as far as there's a lot of truthers out there that still think you should vote. There's a lot of truthers out there that are still connected to the system itself, even though they deem themselves more knowledgeable. Myself, the only societal expectations that I adhere to is working a job to keep a roof over my head. And that's it. I don't live any fancy life. I don't go out to eat dinner at lavish restaurants or go buy a ton of food at the grocery store every week that's going to sit and rot in my refrigerator. I buy things as I need them, utilize things minimalistically, and carry on with life. Societal expectations tells you that you have to consistently chase money to be successful, to be knowledgeable, to be recognized, to be accepted. I don't believe in any of that. I don't care if society accepts me or not. I don't live my life for others. I live my life for myself. And that's what it comes down to. Living life the way you want to live life, because if that's what makes you happy, that's what makes you happy. Like me, I have the information and the tools needed, necessary to transform my life in a major way. Transform my life in a few ways. But first I have to work on this up here before I can transform this out here. And that's what it comes down to as well. These people that rely on a government to tell them how to live, those will be the first to go. The first ones will be the last, and the last ones first. Something like that. I don't know. All I know is I'm not going to comply to any stupid BS that they try to inflict upon us. You know, if it comes down to us having to get something put in us or agreed upon in order to access certain things in life, to buy, sell, or trade, I ain't gonna do it. I won't comply. I didn't comply in 2020, so why am I gonna comply now in 2024? A couple other things that's related to the political scheme of things and presidential policies. Well, every president goes in and, you know, supposedly has a plan of what they're wanting to achieve in the 4 years that they're in office. They usually call them projects. Project 2025, I haven't really looked into it, but I've seen a couple people that have. I heard about it and looked into it, and then I heard some things about it, so I just kind of quit going down that rabbit hole, but that might be a rabbit hole people might want to research. Project 2025, Agenda 2030, the WEF, World Economic Forum, United Nations. But really, when it comes down to it, even if we're aware of all these things that are supposedly on the table, it's all problem, reaction, solution. I also don't believe everything they show me on TV. I don't own a TV. I don't watch TV, but I don't believe everything they show me. I also don't believe everything I hear, you know. I'm more of a, if I see it with my own eyes and hear it with my own ears, then I'm more likely apt to believe it, that it's real, you know, or really happening. I'm not going to believe something just because some video shows me something's taking place. I can't rely on that anymore. So I would hope that other people don't rely on that either, but there are a lot of people out there that believe the clown show. Anyways, people, I hope this helps in some of your understanding of how the process of that works. Have any questions or ideas? Let me know down in the comments section, and we'll talk at y'all later. Peace, love, hugs, and nugs.